Organization and Indian Association of Social Sciences welcome you all to the International Seminar on Future of Human Rights, Humanity and Culture in Emerging Globalized World, being organized at Indira Gandhi Pratishthan, Lucknow this year. Now, over the years, all Indian rights of Professor, Department of Law, Leeds University, England, on this aspect. Cannot be. Will not just come.
quite easy. सर आप लोग आगे आइए स्लो बस
More gesture of a devotion and belief in the power of Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Dr. S.C. Vijay. Thank you, Dr. Vijay. And lastly, thank you, Dr. Vijay.
Might is right is not correct. Now might is right. We all are here to discuss the reality of mankind. In the same manner, we all always feel proud at dimensions like poverty, prostitution, illiteracy, female fertility, domestic violence, child abuse, terrorism, drugs, health, which is again reality of culture. Man was naked, hungry, helpless, unprotected before the finance of culture. And after a thin time, period of cultural atmosphere, man is again naked, hungry, helpless, unprotected. So it is our duty to think about it and find solution to save the humanity. That is why the Pluto Auditorium, hundreds of academicians, scholars are sitting over here to discuss the future of human rights. To avail this opportunity, I welcome our chief guest, Professor Abhishek Mishra, Honorable Minister of Protocol, UP Government, who is on a very short notice accepted our invitation and agreed to spend his precious time for his very busy schedule with us. Sir, he is also welcome in this Pluto Auditorium. Life is here. Unfortunately, we couldn't arrange our keynote speaker, Professor Balraj Chauhan, over here. He is confined to bed. Day before yesterday, he informed that he is not able to address this distinguished guest, Director, International Law, Leeds University, England, Professor Amrita Mukherjee. Madam, this man, victim of circumstances, is accept this challenge. And in this Pluto Auditorium, because of contribution, because of his will, we are here and this seminar is taking place. Last but not least.
Respected Chief Guest, Professor Abhishek Mishra, today's guest of honor, he is on his way, as told earlier, Justice Manindra. Our honorable professor and today's keynote speaker, Professor Balraj Chauhan, though he is not with us because of his precarious health situation, but his blessings are with us and he has conveyed his good wishes for this seminar also. So I also welcome you to this seminar. All the invited guests, our President, V.M. Mishra, who is presiding the function, Shri Prasad Chemia, President, Another Foundation, our colleagues from outside India, Dr. Mukherjee and Dr. Anthony College from Leeds University, and Professor Wiley is on his way from Netherlands. Besides, I welcome all the invited guests, dignitaries and dear participants. Keeping poverty, rampant violence and welfare issues are driving us towards the doom of humankind. Humanitarian area of greater concern for people in search of harmony in their community, greater public interest. Since the end of the Cold War, the principles of rights, the current incidents of violence and human rights and its attendant evils in the society have caused tremendous chaos around the world. And have defied control mechanisms. The breaches and contraventions are widespread both within and across. Since globalization has ordered and promotes human rights, therefore, guided by a mission to create innovative knowledge, expand limits of human understanding and contribution in association with Indian Association of Social Sciences and JNN PD
give the inaugural address. I'm also very pleased to be invited to Lucknow, which my family has a connection to. I'm originally, of course, from India, from West Bengal, but one of my grandfathers actually studied at the University of Lucknow back in 1930. And he gained the highest mark for that period, and managed to keep that record for quite some time. So I thought I'd mention that here today. Like all of you here today, I'm very much looking forward to hearing Professor Chauhan's inaugural lecture. Instead you have me, and I'll be talking on climate change and human rights. When I was thinking about the subject matter for this particular conference, the future of human rights, humanity and culture in an emerging globalized world, I realized that the issue of climate change and the increasing interconnectedness of our destinies and environmental change should be very much part of the subject matter of human rights and globalization, humanity. From east to west, north and south, we are all affected in our progress and development, of course, by climate change issues. But surprisingly, given this understanding, it is very remarkable that it's only recently that human rights have truly entered discourse on climate change. Climate change, which knows no state barriers and will, it seems, affect each and every one of us to face similar experiences, and also will indicate deep divisions that also drive humanity apart between those who can afford and have the resources to adapt to climate change and those who cannot. This is already becoming very apparent and at a faster rate than we have ever expected before. Vulnerable communities are particularly under stress, and the limitation of resources for mitigation, adaptation, and clean technology transfer is becoming increasingly apparent. From the outset, that recently international human rights mechanisms, climate change, as we know, is among the impacts that increase the severity of drought, land degradation and desertification, the intensity of floods and tropical cyclones, and the incidence of malaria and heat-related mortality, and also, of course, decreased crop yield and food security that exists between countries in terms of contributions to the stock of carbon in the atmosphere, industrial advancements as well, and nature of emissions use, and climate vulnerability, there is a marked reluctance in many states to modify existing lifestyles and development pathways, and opinion is very much divided on the promise of technological solutions to complex climate change problems. This paper argues that international human rights mechanisms may respond by strengthening accountability for delivery on adaptation measures through a focus on obligations. I will be discussing the role that may be played by international human rights bodies and also the role of corporate responsibility in this area. The United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and its Kyoto Protocol constitute the international community's first significant step forward to collectively address these concerns of climate change. These instruments have attracted near universal adherence. Their basic purpose is to set in place an international legal framework for common but differentiated responsibility for the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, and to support the national adaptation efforts with a particular concern for the special needs of developing and vulnerable countries, including least developed countries and low-lying states. The framework divides its member states into two major groups, and these bear different obligations. The first framework comprises the so-called Annex I countries, which are mainly developed industrialized countries historically responsible for most emissions, which are accordingly subject to emission reduction targets. Non-annex countries constitute the remainder, which includes developing countries, a broad and undifferentiated category, including such countries as diverse as China, Singapore, Argentina, India, Mali, and Tuvalu, as well as the least developed countries which receive special assistance. The Conference of Parties, which is the framework's chief decision-making body, and the Kyoto Protocol were set up and by the 1997 Protocol and entered into force in 2005 to set legally binding obligations on its 187 member states, including binding limits on GHG emissions for Annex I countries during the first commitment period, which is up to 2012. States must furnish specific information on emissions and emission reduction measures, and the Kyoto Protocol provides a range of mechanisms to facilitate this. Unlike the human rights regime, though, the framework system of the Kyoto Protocol, security and a means of subsistence and to residence, movement and inviolability of the home. So here, the Commission dismissed the petition at national level, and also, very importantly, across vertical.
Thank you, Dr.
Shri Mahavir Prasad of India, President and Foundation. As fundamental right to which a person is inherently entitled simply because he or she is a human being. And these rights may exist as natural rights or legal rights. As you all know that the concept of human rights was developed after the Second World War, when people felt the atrocities committed on human beings during the war. There was increased concern for the social and legal protection of human rights as fundamental freedoms. The United Nations General Assembly adopted the Universal Decade, and the legislation on the subject came into force only in the year 1993. Before starting any discussion on the subject, we must know as to what are the fundamental rights and how these rights are violated. The first substantive right is right to life. Every human being has a right to live, and this right needs to be protected by law. No one should be deprived of his life, but as we see that this right is being violated like anything. Apart from killing, murders and accidental deaths, there is one more way to deprive the life of a living being, and that is termination of teachers. The law to curb this illegal act is already in force, but it is always its violation. The reason for this, as I could understand, is that there are still so many persons who do not want to kill a child. To my mind, this practice can only be checked by changing the way of thinking and bringing awareness in the minds of the people that both boys and girls are equally important. Some human rights activists think that the death penalty is also a violation of human rights.
For this organization today, Honorable Justice William Delsa, who's beautifully informed us about a range of issues today on the topic. Professor Amrita Mukherjee from Leeds University, who has been kind enough to grace the occasion on such a short notice. I really thank you on behalf of Lucknow as a representative as well from the city of Lucknow. Ex-Director General for Police, UP Shri V.N. Mishra Sahab, who is also the President Managing Committee of KKC. Shri Mahavir Prasad Chantier, President of the Foundation, under whose auspices this function is being organized today, the seminar is being organized today. Dr. Alok Chantier, the organizing secretary. Dr. Preeti Mishra, Dr. Mahima Singh, delegates, learned delegates, I must add that word, to the conference, eminent academicians, researchers, faculty members, members of the fraternity, support staff, admin staff, students, the beautiful sitting at the backbencher occupiers, the NCC cadets, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen, this August gathering and the organizers of the conference for giving me the opportunity to be a part of the international seminar on future of human rights, humanity and culture in emerging globalized world that's being organized today by the All India Rights Organization in association with the Indian Association of Social Scientists and the SJMPGD College, Central University, Lucknow. It's a great honor to be here today, and I've rarely been to conferences where I've been at loss of words, because I made it a point that I'm only to go to conferences where I know the subject. So this subject is new to me. Please forgive me if I make errors. So I'm not going to talk about facts. I'm not going to talk about issues that you are well aware of, and I have I have no pretense of knowing anything about the subjects for which you are established experts for. So I'm just going to leave that subject away to you. The Honorable Justice has been very kind enough to elaborate on that, and I'm sure coming from this mouth, it's straight from the House of Horses mouth. I'm sure you've absorbed that, and I'm sure you'll learn to take that forward. But today, you know what, when I accepted the invitation to be here, it was surely on the insistence of some people who are very beloved to me, and to whom I couldn't say no. But apart from that, I thought that the topic is very, it's very topical, it's very subjective, it is at the moment, it is very contextual and very accurate. Then I started thinking, and please forgive my transgression back into history, but we are in the Pluto auditorium, so I'm starting at my questions right from the fact of what is a human? Who is a human? What defines human? Has it been the same? Is it the way we understood human? Has that changed over time? If yes, in what ways? And will it continue to change as we grow further, as we go ahead? If it doesn't, then I can still do business, none of you are going to be in business. Because what you are doing answers that question. So I'm happy to express, and I think confident in saying, that definition is going to change over time. Who is a human being? How do we define a human being? When Alokji was speaking, he started by saying that man evolved from being a nomad, from a hunter-gatherer to established settlements, and then it's been a long journey of about 5,000, 6,000, 8,000 years. That's been the whole idea of who a human being is. Now, how did we become a civilization? Any society, any country, any planet, if I may use that word, becomes a civilization when you grant certain rights. When human beings were granted certain rights by the civilization that they live in, the society where they co-populate, that they cohabitate, that's when you become a civilization, that's when we became a civilization. So without the idea of rights, and I remember John F. Kennedy very famously said that the transgression of one man's human rights is the transgression of every man's rights. So if there is, and the Honorable Justice was also talking about the same thing, that they have taken exception, anybody's human rights were violated, they have been directions from the Honorable Courts at different levels, not only in the country but across the world as well. So there has been a momentum, and which is gaining credence, to protect those rights and to also expand that definition of rights. About 100 years ago, 150 years ago, slavery was accepted. No. Nobody really challenged that question. Right? If you look at the number of lynching punishments that were given out in the United States between 1810 and 1840, most of those punishments involved whites. Hardly any black man was ever lynched for that. And the connection that I'm trying to establish here is very deeply ingrained with the concept of human rights. The connection is, when a man is given certain rights, when a person is given certain rights, when a group is given certain rights, when a subpopulation is given certain rights, there is an initial reaction and response against that right. So after 1840s, when slavery was abolished in the United States, suddenly the people in power, so-called white authority at that time, when they were faced by a man who was a slave or his son was a slave 10 years ago, and said, now I want to give equal rights to you. That's when they started taking a stand and saying, no, sorry, we can't do that. This guy must be punished. Now they've been given rights. How do we find a way to punish him? Let's implicate him into something and lynch him. So the next 30, 40 years of United States legal history is full of lynching, judgments and episodes against the blacks. And then it settled down. So the equality of opportunity to blacks in the United States became a part of the accepted right. I want to come back now to 2012 and raise a small question. If you look at 20 years ago, how many honor killings were there in India? Very few. And if you look at today, that number is increasing. Crime against women, I think, is the single largest rising crime in the country as a whole. Why is that so? I think it's again coming back to the factor of rights, and that's why the American example that I drew upon, and relating it there, and I'm drawing upon that, the rights that women are demanding for themselves, and that the Constitution has given, that the courts have pushed for. Equality, I don't know, I'm not saying anything, I'm not giving a judgment, because societies are complex institutions. There cannot be a single factor which will explain that ever. But it's just a pattern that comes to my mind. I leave it to your good self in your safe hands. You are the experts of the subject. You thrash it out. You think about it. I'm here not to give answers, but to raise questions. And I think that's the role I take on myself to play. I want to raise those questions and point out certain interconnections that strike me as a common man. I have no subject knowledge of this subject at all. But just as a general observer and a keen observer of social moves and trends, and being an academic myself, I'm having somebody, the capability to step back and analyze. So, the link that I was drawing to the title that you've created here is beautifully titled. So there were humans who were given rights, and that created the civilization for us. And that once it became a civilization, gave us enough credentials to call us and belong to what we now call humanity. Humanity is far bigger than that. Culture is a subset of that. When people came together, they started living together, certain rights became there. They devised separate cultures within subgroups. Could be based on location, geography, weather, season, religion, whatever. Gender. But that culture evolved around those issues. And that in totality gave us the whole notion of humanity. What is humanity? How do we interpret it? How do we take it forward? A sum total of all these forces together is what gave us to earn ourselves the credence of calling ourselves humane. And that's why it is humanity. The next thing which I think, is this all going to remain the same? Has it remained the same?
Keynote speaker, Professor Mukherjee, Dr. Chakia, ladies and gentlemen. After these erudite speeches, I can only echo my chief guest that I am at a loss for words. Especially because I retired from the department which is accused of maximum violation of human rights. But I am glad that the chief guest mentioned something which is very dear to my heart. Duties. When I read civics in high school, 54, we were taught that to every right there is a corresponding duty. And the duties are as important as rights. But strangely now, we only talk of rights. Our constitution is totally silent on duty. Although, of course, conditions have been imposed upon rights, mentioned by the guest of honor, Mr. Zayal, that every right is conditioned by certain restrictions. No, this is obvious. But I wish the duties themselves have been brought out in our constitution and in the UN Charter. The keynote speaker dwelt at length on the climate change. Now, in the conference of Kyoto Protocol, the then President George Bush said that he would not like to change the way of life of Americans. not realized it is a way of life of Americans. Professor Mukherjee mentioned about the Inuits, the Eskimos living in Greenland. But if this global warming continues unabated, certain countries will be wiped out, starting with the island of Nauru, and eventually, probably 25-30 years, maybe Bombay, island in Lakshadweep, Maldives. So this right of Americans to have their own way of life has to be conditioned by duty to let others also pursue their rights, including the most important right of all, the right to life. I would end with this, and I would support the chief guest in saying this: that while we discuss human rights, we also discuss about the duty. Thank you.
Srimati Sonia. Now the following panel present and arrangers who are distinguished guests Shruti and Mishra, ex-DGP. And lastly, Dr. Van.
Dear distinguished guests on the dais and off the dais, it is my privilege to give vote of thanks to our distinguished guests. As President of Managerial Foundation, it gives me AIRO has been working since this seminar is one of them. Today, before saying anything, I am very happy to declare 2 awards by Managerial Foundation, which will be given by its Human Rights Organization as AIRO Rights Award. First award will be for the best work on women's rights of ₹5,000, which will carry a certificate, memento, and 3-tier AC train fare to and fro. Second award will be of ₹10,000 for the best.
That's just on market, yeah. You use all the kinds of just short back with
मानव मानने का काम कब होगा? हमारे उसके बीच इतनी दूरी क्यों? मानवता की स्थिति और भविष्य में इसका स्वरूप कैसा प्रमलिन कर दिया? झोपड़ियों के लोग यह जानना चाहते हैं कि क्या हम भी मनुष्य हैं? कई समस्याएं हैं जो एक गरिमापूर्ण जीवन से उनको बहुत दूर ले जाती हैं। बच्चे जो भगवान की मूर्त कहे जाते हैं, तो देश का भविष्य कहे जाते हैं, गंदे पानी में खेलकर अपना बचपन सींच लेते। मलिन बस्तियों में बिना प्रकाश के रहते लोग बड़ी हसरत से मौत की ओर देखते हैं। कौन इन बच्चों की तरफ सोचेगा? आधुनिकता की दौड़ में स्कूल जाते बच्चे या कूड़ा बटोरते बच्चे, क्या ये कैसे देश का भविष्य है? क्या हम मिलकर भी इन झोपड़ियों से निकल कहीं हम दो तरह के बच्चों के समाज का निर्माण तो नहीं कर रहे हैं? एक सुविधा संपन्न और और एक साधन भी है। आखिर यह विभेदक रेखा एक असंतुलित समाज बना रही है।
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now I request Dr. Thank you all.
Conference. I am delighted to be here in this afternoon, but as a professor of development economics, we have been dealing with some of these ideas, and I will be talking something about, I will try to relate the concept of development policy across the world. A very long history of human struggle to give shape to those human rights. I think French Revolution was one of these. Both these concepts of human development and human rights, they aim at the same thing. And both of them are based on the basic idea that man is not a means, but is an end. Involved that we are trying to attain a society, kind of society, which from a normative, ethical point of view, is a more desirable kind of society to the people of the nation. In fact, human rights concept is also inseparable rights. I think we have to go into a little more detail about the nature of these rights. The UN Declaration of 1948, I think it lists 29. If you look at this list, which I have before me, you will find that the thinking in 1948, that is just after the Second World War, and soon after the United Nations came into being, the list and priorities given to them is somewhat and life, liberty and security. So these were the first fundamental objectives that everybody should be able to before law, and his life and liberty should be secured. The second group of rights are more legal rights, immigration. So both they are human rights, and particularly Professor Amartya Sen, he has been emphasizing the idea of the freedom. We call one of his books title is Development is Freedom. And participatory democracy is one of the important dimensions of this process, and he underlines the concept of the process, the measures which are adopted for the welfare of the people. People should also have a say in the formulation of the policy and finally formulation of the law, which is there. So without this kind of people participation in this process, I think the outcomes will not be fully. So it should evolve that we have moved, and particularly was converted into a right when the government adopted development program. We had a long list of now called Manrega. This is different, although from another perspective we find that it is still a limited right. They are only assuring that we will provide 100 days of employment worker in the household, and many people argue that this deprives females of their right to get who will get first preference. To be able to ensure universal compulsory education, but government under pretext of resources that a right to education has been given to the people related to appointment of teachers. Now we are also talking of food. This issue that whether the government has the resources to provide for the rights which it has given in the Constitution and also provided in the form of act in a positive manner to ensure that these rights are actually attained by the people of the country. For that, you require certain pressure on the government, especially for mass movement, which ultimately forces, except that the movement will not be as fast. People's pressures are important, and such seminars play an important role in that context. There are other social and cultural in 18 months by just talking it up to the child. Now, if you put it in household, but that kind of sensitivity has not developed still in our society, the Scandinavian countries in particular. Similarly, the role which, say, some institutions which are extra legal institutions like the behavior and code of conduct on the members of their community, I think they also his or her choice. But these social institutions, and in a way they have a strong sway on the minds of the people in the legal and administrative matters. The last point which I would like to submit is in the context of globalization. Many fears about globalization are raised, the leading economic power of the world. But I think that realization of human rights, because if some nation states are totally excluded, many of the Arab states. So I think rather being apprehensive about it, I think this will be it provides a setting in which say harmful consequences, where it can in some cases play a damaging role to economy or culture of the society. So certain rich, and they also enhance the quality of best in the light of globalization. So with these words, I would like to thank you very much.
A.N. Verma ji, who is
I learned that this was international, it was future of human rights, humanity and but from the topic and from the discussion that might have taken place, the future of human rights has to be seen. Now, today the entire world is under great stress and strain. There is commotion and chaos all over. Innocent people are being killed for no fault of theirs. Terrorism world over is at the helm of the affairs. People are not able to make their two ends meet. A few days back, I was attending a conference at the CMS Institute on Article 51. That was also an international, whose ancestors had migrated to Guyana from this part of the country. Were dying of hunger and malnutrition. Just imagine, when we are in 21st century, recently one of an Indian citizen now, an American citizen now. She is also in NRI. Williams, Sunita Williams, she had gone to space, remained there for a couple of days, and here people are dying of hunger, malnutrition, illiteracy. Basic human rights are being violated. Amenities like potable water, nutrition, sanitation, and medical facilities and education. Effort to handle these problems and also to a certain extent successful, but it is also incumbent and duty of present day generation to meet these challenges and try to address the present day situation. Are strictly adhered to. There can be no reason as to why one should not be optimistic about the bright future of human rights, humanity and culture in emerging globalized world. The violation of human rights can be prevented to control these problems. Now, if these problems are controlled,
Part of the world, and I'm sitting here, it's nice to see them, and I'm really thankful to them that they have come over the place to face the world. It's a very important topic which touches everybody, either by feelings or by observation. It's not that government is doing, government of India and the other parts of the world, many organizations have come right to education, right to information, right to rural health. But I must say the pace with which these programs are going on probably will take decades and decades to address the problem. So the need of the hour is whatever project we have taken, they should be implemented at a great pace, the greater pace, so that at least one project can be applied process. I really take great pleasure and pride that India Rights Organization and Indian Association of Social Scientists have successfully considered as a defect certificate organization. In last session, I have given to understand that resource persons like Honorable Minister Protocol Mr. Abhishek Mishra, Mr. Justice Mahendayal, AD SGP Sri Tripathi, academicians like Professor D.N. Yadav and Professor A.P. Tiwari, Professor Kamasha Chaudhary, Professor M.L. Manivanan, Professor A.P. Singh, Dr. Birpal Singh, and many others are surely in this to understand the presence of eminent experts of human rights like Professor Amita Mukherjee and Professor Anthony from the University.
You may use Globalized.
People have come from West Bengal, from Gujarat.
Sectors of this conference. So I very much appreciate the work you are doing here for human rights, academic work as well as also practical work. So this is basically my message, and just I want to encourage you to go.
It's been a truly wonderful experience for me. Different understandings and analysis of human rights, a subject that, as you know, I've researched in the country where I was born, so it's been a true privilege for me. Thank you very much.
To be part of the seminar and this variety of activists also. So thank you very much. I look forward to coming back again. Manila.
It's professionally organized, and the last month only I decided to come over here because of my ceremony, and it was 200% more than my expectations. My best wishes for your future university. Thank you.
It gives me an immense pleasure for organizing an international seminar at the world standard. The hospitality given by the organizing committee and the way of conducting the seminar and technical sessions and the participants' involvement in each and every topic. I'm totally much impressed. I'm really very happy and wholeheartedly congratulate the organizing team for having organized such a wonderful conference at international level. The real international standard that I am observing, people from various countries, from various parts of our world, because very recently we are suffering a lot, and all those problems were discussed elaborately, and the solutions what we have arrived, that we can prepare the report, and we can send to the concerned organization. And my special thanks to my beloved friend, Captain K.K. Shukla, because of Dr. Shukla and Shio. And this is my kind and wholehearted thanks to Dr. K.K. Shukla and the organization.
Thank you. I am very, very happy to participate in this seminar in human rights. It's a wonderful subject. We should have so many seminars like this. Thank you so much.
I finished my MA in Literary and Cultural Studies. I'm so nervous for giving this speech. This is the first time I'm attending an international seminar, all because of Dr. Kanti, because I was not there. They agreed to take my paper. I was, actually I'm half Indian, my mom is Bengali. But maybe I was not expecting all this hospitality from people in Lucknow. It was wonderful, and I'm going back to my country, and I'm sure I'll miss India. I consider it as my second home with these lovely people. I mean, being in Lucknow, I think my journey is over, and I will go back with wonderful memories back. And I hopefully will become one of these human rights activities in my country. I will encourage my friends to join this organization, and I come here personally invite Dr. Alta to just have a visit to my country, and this will receive you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Presenting a memento to Justice and Environment. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Lucknow. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Now accept beautiful thoughts. Thank you.
Mr. Habibullah from Iran was saying that I am from Iran and it's quite difficult for me to say anything in English, but you Indians know English very good. That's why you are able to conduct such type of seminar and you are able to express your idea in English very well. But Hindi is my language. मैं आलोक चाणक्य श्री जीसी शुक्ला जी के वोट ऑफ थैंक्स के बाद थैंक्स के लिए इसलिए आया कि वो नाम छूट गए, सर क्षमा करिएगा, जिनकी वजह से एक बार बिना कहे आप सभी लोग उन लोगों के लिए तालियां बजाते हैं। By their support, not only financially and conducting this seminar, who want to do something for human rights, who want to change the whole world, who want to say something for human rights. That's why future which is not known. You are here, I am here, all are sitting over here. Again, उनको थैंक्स मैं हिंदी सितंबर माह से अपनी हाफ सैलरी मुझको देती रही कि ये सेमिनार हो जाए, लेकिन वो सिर्फ इसलिए नहीं है कि किसी को भी इनाम फंक्शन देखा है, उनके जो विद्यार्थी हैं उन सभी ने पैसा कलेक्ट करके इस सेमिनार को संज्ञान तक पहुंचाया है। मैं अपने माइनर से इन फाइनल से स्टूडेंट, your teacher is in crisis. Your teacher wants to organize an international seminar, but he has no money. And it's change. We don't know the meaning of humanity. I knocked at least 120 doors. I was completely helpless. If human rights is going to be the state, if human rights is the matter of the state, going on around this door, around this hall, but a zero is going on. The very humble lady, she understood my problem, and she offered me, yes, I am suffering from some problem. These are few names in my memory, in my heart, who came forward and supported me. Alok, Dharumat, who want to change the face of my beloved Principal Dr. Narsi Sharma, a very
टोकते रहना
रुके रहिए।
आगे ना पीछे
Ah